I see that Senator Toomey of Pennsylvania is here. Just a few days ago, he introduced the PACT Act in the U.S. Senate with Senator Dick Blumenthal of Connecticut. So, Senator Toomey, thank you very, very much for your leadership on this issue. And John Thompson of the National Sheriff's Association and I just offered some remarks, so we'd love to have you come up and say a few words. Thank you so much, sir, for being here.
Thanks very much, Wayne, first of all, and thanks for the great work that you do and the work on this particular legislation. I appreciate that. I appreciate our working relationship. John, thank you also for your involvement and your terrific work. I should start off by acknowledging Senator Blumenthal, who is my lead Democrat sponsor, so that this is a bipartisan effort, and I appreciate working with him, as well as the PACT Act sponsors in the House, Representative Lamar Smith, Representative Ted Deutsch, Representative Tom Marino, and I'm sure their ranks will be growing, and we'll have ever more co-sponsors as we move along. I've had some history in efforts to fight against animal abuse back I think it was 2012, when we had an amendment to make attending dogfights a federal crime, and that became law in 2014. And I co-sponsored the PAST Act, which would protect horses from abuse, and I hope that that becomes law soon. And all the way back in 1999, when I was in my first year in the House, I supported legislation to ban the sale of these appalling crush videos. And I'm glad that the sale of these videos is now illegal, has been for some time, but as I'm sure you're very well aware, the underlying act itself is not illegal, and it needs to be. So I think that this legislation is certainly as important in this whole space of fighting violence against animal and animal abuse. It's as important as anything that I've been involved in before. First of all, the act itself, this idea of crushing and torturing animals is horrific, and it's obscene. It offends the sensibilities of every decent human being. It's just difficult to even read an account of what actually happens without being revolted by this. The fact is that there should be no tolerance in our society for this kind of behavior. And it's our job as legislators to ensure that the laws that we pass reflect the values of our society. So I think there's a strong moral obligation to protect innocent animals from such appalling cruelty. And that would be sufficient reason to support this act. But as I think I overheard, just as I was entering the room, there's still another whole set of reasons why we should make sure this becomes law, and that is the fact that animal abuse is often linked to other forms of criminal violence. When you think about it, no sort of healthy, normal, balanced, well-adjusted human being could find pleasure in causing pain and misery on another living being. I just don't understand how it could be otherwise. And so it's not shocking to learn that the data shows very clearly that animal abuse is a known indicator of future violent acts. My understanding is it could be as high as 70% of federal inmates guilty of violent crimes have themselves admitted to previously abusing animals. 50% of school shooters have had a history of abusing animals. The Louisiana shooter, John Hauser, bragged about killing a cat with a steel pipe before he murdered 2 women and injured 9 others. So by criminalizing animal abuse, we're going to make a very important statement, and we're going to take an important action about protecting animals from an appalling cruelty, but we're also going to be taking a step against violence against human beings, hopefully discovering, capturing, prosecuting people before they go on to commit ever more violent and appalling crimes. So I am proud to be working on this legislation. I am grateful to my colleagues who've joined in this effort, and I really appreciate the National Sheriff's Association and the Humane Society for all of their leadership on this really important issue. I hope that the PACT Act will become law soon, and I think we've got a pretty good shot at that. So thank you all very much for having me today. Thanks for what you do.